Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault, and we're going to talk about Square Enix again today. I did a video on them a few, 2 weeks ago maybe, roughly, where we were talking about how some of the shareholders of the company were asking about Square Enix's relationship with companies like Black Girl Gamers and Sweet Baby Inc. and the like, these progressive diversity companies, these advisory companies or whatever. And anyway, yeah, they were making some questions about it because, we all know what happened with Forspoken, which was a big DEI influenced game from Square Enix. Thing made no money, and the studio ended up getting shut down. So anyway, let's get the music and we'll get right to it. All right, first off, I don't like any of these outside advisor companies, these consultant firms or whatever, coming in and working on video games. To me, it feels like you're coming in, you're like a hired gun, right? You come in, you collect your money, you do whatever damage you want to do, and you get out, you're not held accountable for it, right? Because, you've already moved on, you collected your check. The game sucks, doesn't make any money. Oh, well, you cashed your check a year or two ago because, you were in there during the planning and development stages. You weren't there for the release. You should be held accountable for it. I think these companies, if they want to exist, that if anybody wants to do business with them, they should tell them, hey, I'll tell you what, you want to advise us? We'll pay you based on the performance of the game. And then nobody makes any money, right? So anyway, report. Square Enix removes male and female character options from upcoming Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake. This is one of the insidious things that they do. I've seen this happen time and time again now, where we don't see male and female as choices when you're creating a character in a character creator. And it used to be male, female, right? Now it's body A and body B, or body 1 or body 2, body type this, body type that. And it's a small alteration to the way things are done, but it's very significant, and it's very, like I said, it's insidious because you wouldn't notice it unless you're looking for it. I didn't notice it at first, and then I started seeing it, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, yeah, why aren't we calling them male and female anymore? That's kind of ridiculous. And if it happened to one game, you'd be like, oh, that's just some weird thing that game did, whatever. Maybe they did something funky in translation from wherever it was created, whatever, I don't know. But to see it more and more often, now I'm starting to recognize a pattern. And I recognize these, when I start seeing patterns and all that, then I start to understand what's going on. And the reason they're doing that is for the quote-unquote modern audience. And we all know what the modern audience is. The modern audience is a bunch of games journalists, developers, and mentally ill gamers that have to project themselves and have to see themselves in every game they play. Otherwise, they're not going to play it for some reason. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. I seriously think it's a big narcissistic type mental illness that these people have, and they have to see themselves, But let's go on and read a little bit more about this. The report comes from Ryokucha 2089, who claims via machine translation that the game has no distinction between male and female heroes. Ryo notes the characters are labeled A and B, there you go, with the A version appearing like a male hero, while the B version is a female hero. Ryo even notes that the A version is voiced by male actor Hiyama Nobuyuki, while the B version is voiced by Minaguchi Yuko. On top of the main character having their sex removed from the character select, jobs will also no longer be distinguished by gender in name. Not sure what that means. I never played the original game, so I'm not really sure about this, but Square Enix is in trouble. They've been losing some money and all that. They recently launched an initiative to go for quality over quantity for their games. So, this is something that obviously, if it's coming out and it's been in production for quite some time, maybe they're just letting it go as it is, and moving forward we won't see this again. I don't know, but if this goes out there and craps the bed and it starts getting questioned again by shareholders and all that, well, we might start to see a little accountability within the organization itself, and we might have more than just some polite questions being asked. We might be asking for jobs. Next up, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. But it was revealed back in 2019 that Square Enix has an ethics department, and this ethics department was the reason for why Tifa's chest was tightened in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Ethics. The game's director, Tetsuya Nomura, revealed the department telling Weekly Famitsu, "We wanted Tifa to have abs, so she now has more of an athletic body type. The ethics department at Square Enix also said we had to tighten her chest so it doesn't look unnatural during all the intense fighting. Because of that, we added black thigh highs and a tank top." You don't want too much bouncing going on there, I guess. I mean, whatever, That's a minor thing, but it's a thing. It's like, why ethics department? Ethics, that's just her outfit, but they didn't have to make the jiggle physics too spot on. They could have tightened that up a little bit and kept the shape, but whatever. Square Enix representative would explain the purpose of the ethics department to Polygon following Nomura's comments. In the Square Enix Japan studios, the ethics department is actually a group within the company that evaluates game content to make sure it is aligned with the anticipated age ratings standards across the globe. ERSB here in the States. In this case, we want a new generation of gamers to experience Final Fantasy VII Remake, and are working very closely with the company's internal experts to make sure all of the game's content is appropriate. That actually is fair enough for me. I mean, see what you want. This is not a bloody, intense game. This is not a mature game, a rated M for mature game. So you know what? If Square Enix wanted to do this because they want this game to reach out to a younger audience and get a whole new generation of kids hooked on Final Fantasy, I can live with that. That doesn't bother me. I mean, that's, it is what it is. In an interview with Square Enix employee Mary Tanabe provided more details on the ethics department. As translated via DeepL, Tanabe shared, "After working as a game designer in the development of online games, I am now a member of the Quality Control Department's ethics team, where I check all games developed by our company for expressions from an ethical perspective. Specifically, I check all game expressions, including scenarios, illustrations, designs, and effects, to ensure that they do not contain expressions that are discriminatory, prejudicial, or offensive, and that they are in compliance with ratings." She added, "In addition to the large number of games we are involved with, the length of time we are involved with each game is also a unique feature of our work. We are involved in the game from the planning stage and continuously check the game many times as the development progresses, which gives us a great sense of accomplishment when the game is successfully launched." Alright, I don't see a lot wrong with that. The one thing I don't like, though, is offensive. Okay? I get discriminatory, as long as you're working within the parameters of what really is discriminatory and you're not looking at the woke left idiots version of that word, or prejudicial, where they consider anything that doesn't just bow down to their beliefs to be racist or sexist or whatever like that, I could dig that part. But the offensive part, I don't like that word, because offensive, different people find things offensive, right? There's a big difference. Like, I find the fact that Assassin's Creed Shadows has a black protagonist in feudal Japan who is cosplaying as a samurai, based off of a real human being, Yasuke, but that real human being was never a samurai. So, I find that offensive. That's offensive. Where's Ubisoft's ethics department there? That's a really egregious error there. But anyway, I go off subject. Furthermore, she shared the ethics team's job is to make corrections to what the developers have seriously created. Therefore, you are expected to take responsibility for your decisions. The difficulty in checking expressions in entertainment, it is not enough to serve only the Mal or Batu decision. For example, if a certain expression is not acceptable, you need to be able to come up with an alternate expression that would be acceptable. What I try to keep in mind in this job is that my work is not memorable to the user in a positive sense, she continued. For example, if there's a typo in a scenario of an emotional scene in the game, or if there's an expression that makes the user feel uncomfortable, it will spoil the experience of the game. The fact that my work went unnoticed by users after the game's release also means that I did my job correctly. Although I work behind the scenes, when a game I was involved in is released and is highly acclaimed, I feel as if my work is being praised, which makes me happy. Yeah, I do remember the old days getting these games like from Japan, and the translations are just awful, man, awful. The syntax was always wrong. It was always hilarious to read these things because it sounded like somebody who is really struggling with English to write the English. And that's that's not being offensive to Japanese or anything like that. Hey, you guys did a hell of a job trying. The world was a lot different back in the 80s and the 90s and all that, back before we were all connected so much. So, the translations were definitely not as easy to do. We didn't have these localization teams and stuff like that we do these days. So, it's cool, but it's funny. But yeah, and she makes sense, right? So if you do see something offensive in the game, or not offensive, but I guess that takes you out of the game. But again, this has to go every direction for it to be effective, right? This has to go every direction. So if Square Enix makes a game and it's set in a world where, like I think the last Final Fantasy 16 was kind of set in like a medieval Europe world, and everybody got mad because it was a predominantly white cast. Well, I mean, that makes sense, right? That makes sense for medieval Europe. Later on, things changed quite a bit and all that, but back in the day, that's the way it was. Everybody was where they kind of came from. We didn't become a connected globe, hundreds of years ago. It wasn't until fairly recently that we really started, once we learned how to fly, that's when we really started to homogenize a little bit in different parts of the world. And granted, boats and trains existed and all that, but the flying, that really did it, that made it crazy. By removing the option to choose between male or female, it seems abundantly clear that Square Enix is catering to the transgender ideology, which, as Pope Francis notes in Amoris Laetitia, aims to deny the difference and reciprocity in nature of a man and a woman, and envisions a society without sexual differences, thereby eliminating the anthropological basis of the family. This ideology leads to educational programs and legislative enactments that promote a personal identity and emotional intimacy radically separated from the biological difference between male and female. Consequently, human identity becomes the choice of the individual, one which can also change over time. And he continues, it is a source of concern that some ideologies of this sort, which seek to respond to what are at times understandable aspirations, manage to assert themselves as absolute and unquestionable, even dictating how children should be raised. It needs to be emphasized that biological sex and the socio-cultural role of sex, gender, can be distinguished, but not separated. And that makes a solid point there. You can feel how you want to feel. And I'll never begrudge you that, right? You're a human being. Your journey through this world is going to be way different than mine. And if you feel a certain way and you want to, refer to yourself as a certain thing and all that, that's good on you. If you've got friends and family that are going to indulge you in that, I don't personally approve of that because I feel like they're just kind of feeding into what is essentially a mental illness. But, it is what it is. They love you, and maybe they just don't understand the best way to help you. The best way to help you isn't indulging you. It's coming down hard on you and helping you see what reality really is, and maybe getting you some help. And by hard, I don't mean bullying and all that. I mean, just being straight up factual with you if that's how you feel. And it's sad, and it's really sad because this is being pushed now everywhere. Film, movies, politicians, the news, video games, we see it everywhere. So as it becomes more and more normalized, people are living under the assumption that, yeah, this is normal, this is the way things are. And it's not normal, and it's never going to be normal. This type of lifestyle is an evolutionary dead end. Because if humanity went this route, 10,000 years ago, there'd be no humans around, right? There'd be no humans. Just imagine that, like the first cavemen and all that, the guys all buggered each other and didn't touch the women. Humanity never would have existed. So it's not the natural order of things. And you can argue that all you want. I can use the word normal in this regard, and it's an accurate word. You could say it's mean and transphobic and all that. I really don't care about that part of the argument. The part of the argument is it's wrong, and it should be promoted, and people should be helped, not indulged, and not led into a life that is ultimately going to end up hurting them. We wouldn't do it if they were anorexic or bulimic, you know. We wouldn't say, oh man, you look so great, Joyce, look how skinny you are. What are you down to, 85 pounds? That's amazing. What's your, 80, I can't wait to see what you look like when you hit 80 pounds. You're going to have to jump around in the shower to get wet. That's going to be so crazy. No, we don't do that, right? We don't indulge self-harm in people. At least we shouldn't. And we don't indulge mental illness and body dysmorphia. That's just not right. We shouldn't do that. But anyway, I digress once again. Of note, this news comes in the wake of a Square Enix investor questioning the company's business relationship with activist companies like Sweet Baby Inc. The shareholder asked during a recent report, I'm personally happy about the shift from quantity to quality. I hope good titles will come out in the future. I'm concerned about the Canadian consulting company Sweet Baby. Square Enix is listed as a client, but is there actually a transaction there? What kind of transaction is it? Will they continue to do so in the future? I'm glad, that's what I was talking about earlier. The Square Enix president, Takahashi Kiru, responded, I would like to refrain from making specific comments about individual clients as we shift from quantity to quality. Providing content that is enjoyable and safe for our customers is also part of what makes products fun. We will do our best as creators. So that's a really... I don't like that statement so much because he's not saying that we're going to end those relationships, but he's also not saying we're going to continue them. So maybe that's something that's being discussed right now, or maybe that's something that he's planning on doing, but he doesn't want to tip his hand. Obviously, they didn't do it before this game's coming out, so we're going to see more of that nonsense. And unfortunately, this game is going to do poorly because of it. And, Dragon Quest III, the HD 2D remake, it's going to hurt the sales. It may not destroy the sales, but it's going to hurt the sales. It never helps, right? It never helps. Never once have I seen a game succeed because somebody did something silly like that. It doesn't happen. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to ring that bell for notifications. Thanks for watching today. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault. I'll see you next time. Until then, peace.